Welcome back to New Persuasive Words. I'm Scott Jones.
And I'm Bill Bohr. Hello, Scott. Good to see you today.
Good to see you, Bill. Breaking news. Well, it's not that breaking, but it's a news story that has come to my attention. So for me, it's breaking.
All right, let's hear it.
So you know that we've deployed, or the North Koreans have deployed soldiers to Ukraine.
Thousands of soldiers. Yes.
So this is the first time they've been exposed to pornography. So they're addicted. The North Korean soldiers are addicted to pornography.
Now, can I ask? I have a question.
Like internet porn. Like they're not,
how did
censored.
What was your source for that?
It was Bill Maher,
our new Attorney General to be.
no, it was
Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz was sharing links with them.
Right? Yeah, exactly. No, that was what was the Nude Africa? What was the?
Oh, that was the guy who. Yeah, the guy in North Carolina. Yeah.
That's a website that's very tawdry. I mean, that's as tawdry as it gets. I just think if you're going to be in politics, get a dummy email. Have multiple email accounts. I mean, I think everybody should have multiple email accounts, just because there's certain emails you don't want to give to everybody. I mean, I think.
Yeah, there's a point. How many email addresses do you currently have?
I have that I functionally use. I have really two.
Yeah.
I have, by the way, I could have had scottjones@gmail.com when Gmail first came out. And I said, I'll stick with my Hotmail. Thanks. That'll never catch up. So that's just, again, my sense of timing in this life is just fantastic. I mean, I really do have that down. So I don't know. So apparently North Korea, there's not a lot of pornography there, and so
there's no internet. There's not really internet there. You can't.
No, there's no internet. There's no nothing. So this is what's going on in North Korea. So.
Well, there we go. And I see that. So they are now we're letting the Ukrainians use our long range rockets against Russia. I saw that. Yeah.
Well, what are long range rockets good for if you're not using it? At what point do you like? So
right.
I mean, is that sort of, if we give them the rockets, can't they do whatever they want with them?
Well,
if I buy you a blender for Christmas, Bill, do you have to get my permission to put the poison in
okay. So for instance, theoretically they got these rockets to deter Russia from invading them, but obviously that didn't work. So if you got these rockets, it's again, I do think we're flirting. We keep flirting with World War III, but we have North Koreans, porn addicted North Koreans now on the Eastern Front in Ukraine. All bets are off.
Yeah, I mean, look. Well, I mean, does that improve your military prowess? Does it diminish it? I mean, I would think if you've never seen pornography in your life, and then you go immediately to
the Russian pornography,
to you porn or whatever. I would think that's a lot.
It could be a lot. It could be a lot. Yeah. Well, I'm sure that's all the things to worry about in the world. I think I'm going to put that one on the back burner.
That's a front burner for me. That's definitely front burner for me. And by the way, we had Joe and Mika went down to Mar-a-Lago.
Oh my gosh. Like they are two of the worst people. They really are. I mean, I'm glad they speak boldly and then they, it's that never mind.
Mika, Jon Stewart was talking about it. Jon Stewart said, they played the clip from Mika. Yes, we did go to Mar-a-Lago to open communications. And why shouldn't we? And Stewart just says, because you called him Hitler.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. This is also, I think, the danger of how you normalization to normalize, to not normalize, whatever you do in this regard, right? It can't be. I mean, you can't call a 5-alarm fire and say this is authoritarian strongman Mussolini and Hitler rolled into one, just in a Trojan horse or something, and then go to Mar-a-Lago, right? You can't. I mean, so this is. I think you have to either be serious about the rhetoric, or turn your rhetoric down.
Yeah, right. If you're gonna, no, absolutely, I agree. If you actually believe that, then stay with it. Take a stand, right? No, I gave up on that show long ago. At one point, I enjoyed it, but that was a long time ago.
Jon Stewart was like, "I'll reenact this in the form of a one-act play or one-man show." And he said, "Oh, all right. We now have to open lines of communication, and this is are those macaroons?" I mean, Mar-a-Lago. They do say the chocolate cake. I mean, Trump himself, right, says that President Xi had never eaten a chocolate cake. I mean, that chocolate cake, I could see President Xi had never seen. I mean, that's what's fascinating. I remember
that probably occurred in probably 20 episodes of our podcast right after.
That's my favorite moment of the first Trump administration. You had the leader of the most populous nation on the planet, and all you talk about is the chocolate cake in Mar-a-Lago. It's fantastic.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Well, by the way,
don't you think? I mean, who the hell are you to say that, Trump? I mean, like, I'm sure the man eats pretty well as the head of the party. I mean, it's an oligarch. You don't think he's had a nice chocolate cake in his life?
Well, where was he educated? Was he educated in this country or Europe?
I think he was educated. I want to say he did a degree in the United States. President Xi education. Let's see. I want to say Yale. I want to say or something. No, it's just 2 universities in China that I've never heard of.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, at any rate. Yeah, if you want to get some, I mean, the Flemish chocolate cake is lovely. And I like those Eastern European cakes too. They're kind of like torts.
Well, this is by the way, I mean, what if Ukraine does have to sue for peace? I mean, with the current transition of administration.
Oh, I think that's not if.
Or I mean, when?
Yeah, it's a win, right? Because they're not going to. Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to. I think their funding is going to get cut pretty soon. Yeah, it's interesting. What about, since you're our resident expert on Project 2025?
Because one of us has read through it for an hour and a half.
Right.
Yeah, one of us has skimmed it. That would make me the resident expert.
Yeah, you are the resident expert, right? And I'm sure some of our listeners, use it for their quiet times now. So if those of you who are experts and on the vanguard of 2025, we welcome your correction. But the guy who wrote the thing on the FCC has been that's who's been picked to lead the FCC.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's well, it's fantastic if you're not really that concerned about free speech, but
why wouldn't you put Joe Rogan in there?
Oh yeah. I guess one other thing too. Now, this is a little Orwellian, but back to back we've had reports. So the superintendent of schools for Oklahoma is requiring a video of him saying a prayer for our country to be shown at all the school districts in Oklahoma. And then the Texas Board of Education has just approved a mandatory biblically inspired curriculum as well. So there we go. That's kind of an interesting thing. That probably, as much as anything, disturbs me as a Christian, that kind of merger and the kind of people, first of all, the kind of people who are going to be teaching the Bible, the version of whatever biblical perspective they're taking that's going to be instructed. And then just, again, the resentment, the understandable resentment that's going to cause from people who don't want their kids to be indoctrinated religiously at school. I find that it's one thing to go out of your way to be anti-religion, and I my kids have been around teachers and educational institutions that were not very veiled in their antagonism towards faith. That's not good, but this certainly is not the corrective.
But what if, I think Huckabee, if you had not chosen Mike Huckabee for the cabinet position, for the ambassadorship to Israel, what if you had chosen Kanye, and then he could be Jesus of Nazareth? Now that would have been cool.
Yeah,
so I look at the bright side. I try to look at for the bright side of these things.
Well, what you said, that we have plenty. This is
it's bad for the country, great for the show.
Great for the show.
By the way, did you see someone? I guess the apparently another headline today. Apparently, a hacker has gotten access to the Matt Gaetz files.
Right.
No, that's a guy. What's the line from Stripes? You, Lee Harvey, I want to party with this guy. When you and your brother stole the cow, and your brother tried to make it with the cow. This is I mean, Matt Gaetz. So I have a friend who shall remain nameless, but has listened to this podcast before, and he said his theory. He knew a contractor who would purposefully do something wrong, something not that onerous to set right, so the housing inspector would find it and then say, oh, you have to do this, rather than him sort of making up a laundry list, right? Put something right out in the open for the inspector to find, so he could quickly correct it. And he said that was his view of the Matt Gaetz appointment. That was the thing that the housing inspector's supposed to find.
Oh, right.
and draw attention, so that.
All right. Is he the same guy who built that condominium in Florida that collapsed?
No.
Whoops.
No,
what?
No.
Retaining walls? Why? No need. Yeah. So that's kind of it. Well, the other thing too is did they hack into the congressional committee's files? Is that where that came from?
I assume.
Or maybe one of the attorneys,
or one of the attorneys, or I don't know. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, anyway, once again, it just makes you I'm really glad that the new Trump administration is going to work on all our cybersecurity. I'm sure they'll have the brightest and best on that, because once again, something that you're not supposed to get eyes on, someone's gotten eyes on.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's hiring all the best people. By the way, the Pennsylvania Senate race is still being contested. Bob Casey is contesting.
Yeah, the votes get small. Well, it's an automatic recount. The recount's going on right now, right? The official recount.
There's a recount, yeah, and there's apparently he's looking for some votes in Bucks County.
All right. Well, I encouraged my kids to vote multiple times there, so we'll see how that went. Yeah.
Vote early and often.
Early and
often is what you got to do.
You and Mayor Daley, right? That was the original Daley. Well, we just for future episodes, by the way, we're going to talk about Dietrich Bonhoeffer here in a future episode.
Well, we're going to do it today, but neither of us felt like we knew enough
about the current controversy. Yeah,
about the current controversy.
And there's a movie, and a movie's coming out, which that's a great topic to have a movie on. So and part of it is the promo of the movie, kind of like a theologian, spy, assassin, or something like that.
Tinker Tank. What was that? Soldier Sing. What was that movie? That was good.
Yeah, that was a good movie.
Soldier, Tinker,
Tailor, Spy, or something like that. That
was a good movie.
Yeah, but at any rate, so we're gonna in a future episode, the battle of try how do we liberate Bonhoeffer from Bonhoeffer's interpreters. But
also we should say, but we have done this before in the past, and we're still open to it. People have emailed us suggestions for things they'd like us to talk about, and we're more than willing to field suggestions. You can email on the podcast website. There's a link where you can click and just send us your suggestions. Or send us things you don't want us to talk about.
Yeah, that's even better, right?
Please, under no circumstances, mention this topic.
Right. Because we might be consulting with the Vermont legislature. We've been.
What if I would go to Mar-a-Lago if I could go.
Yeah, and let me know how that goes.
I would go. I would take selfies. I would do it. I would if Donald Trump said new persuasive words, we would we want to open lines of communication. I would represent us in Mar-a-Lago.
All right, very good. Oh, by the way, did you see Robert Kennedy Jr. with a McDonald's burger? That picture?
Yeah. But isn't that the greatest thing? Like, isn't that this is just so Trump, right? You have to sit there, and this is a guy that said that our health, that we have a toxic food supply, and that this is part of the problem with corporate pollutants in our and so he just has to sit and kiss the ring and eat McDonald's. That's so fantastic. I love. It's like something out of Game of Thrones.
But
it's so great.
It is like Game of Thrones, and you have Johnson barely getting into the picture, and you have Elon Musk, who apparently is now, I guess, how long does he have to be with Trump before he's his common law husband?
Because he's a concubine. He's a concubine.
Well, but whose concubine is whom?
That's a good question. Because I don't think I don't know that Melania is going to the White House or not.
Yeah, who's zooming who? There is what is the question about the Elon and Trump. So that one, there is. That could be. Now here we go. That would be a great reboot of The Odd Couple.
That's
great. Yeah, that would be. So here, suggestions on who. Well, we've got lots of options to play Trump, but who would play Elon Musk in the
the guy, who does all the cartoon voices.
Seth
MacFarlane would clearly play Elon.
How about Bill Hader? Bill Hader could
but he looks, that's true. Bill Hader could do it.
Yeah, Bill Hader is a possibility. All right, anyway, so
just what's next? I mean, the McDonald's, it's so great every day. The FCC. Oh, wait, and who's the guy? The transportation secretary is the guy from The Real World.
Is he?
I mean, he's done other things since then, I think, but he was a former star from The Real World.
All right.
I mean, I think, in all seriousness, right? So, okay. I think I'm not a huge Rudy Giuliani fan, but I think it was a huge injustice that Rudy Giuliani did not get anything in the cabinet after all the water he carried for Trump. If Hulk Hogan does not get something in the cabinet, I mean, that was one of the best moments of the campaign. I mean, if Elon gets to sit in every meeting, Hulk Hogan should get something.
How about the ambassador to the Vatican?
How about the ambassador to Venice Beach?
Venice Beach may be in a different country by the time this is all
over. Well, I think Kennedy hangs out at like Venice Beach, like
I'm sure.
Weights and
stuff. Yeah, of course he does. All right.
It's just, it's right. No plan. We've gone for 17 minutes and 54 seconds. And we're just randomly going through headlines.
Going through the headlines. I know.
And this is a slow news day.
This would be a slow news day. Right. All right. Well, this Sunday is Christ the King Sunday. It's a relatively recent observance. And it was instituted in 1925 by Pope Pius XI to remind Christians that their allegiance was to the King of Heaven and not to earthly leaders. It was in response to some of Mussolini's claims. Mussolini made an appearance on the podcast last episode or episode before, but we did talk about the Barman Declaration. That was a Protestant response to government overreach in terms of the realms of where does our allegiance belong. But this Sunday was a Catholic response to an earlier overreach that, by the way, that the effect fascism had on the spiritual life of Italy is something that that affected generations. I have a good friend whose father and grandfather were part of the resistance to that, and the marriage of fascism, Roman, the church hierarchy, and organized crime did not help the general spirituality of the people of Italy. That's for sure.
I wouldn't think so.
When
is authoritarianism, organized crime been good for people spiritually? I mean,
that's an open question, right? I guess you've just take a little stroll down social media among some various Christian websites, and you may be surprised, or you won't be surprised because you read those things more than I do.
I do. I do. I mean, I do. I also, I mean, I get a lot of my news stuff from Clubhouse though, like people that I hear people bring the stuff up, and then I get it live. I get live audio feeds of these things. That's how I stay abreast of things.
Very
But
nice.
back to Christ the King, who is my king. Just going. I'm just putting it out there.
You're
He's
putting
my
that
king.
there. Well, you know, I love though it. I love the.
By the way, do you know what's so great about Christopher Richards once said, you know, no, and of course, if I do suspend my intellect and sacrifice on the altar, I get my reward is to spend eternity in celestial North Korea. All my thoughts can be seen.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say many of the popular portrayals of heaven do not hold up well as one grows up.
Do you remember The Simpsons where Marge is in like wasp heaven, like we're like, hello, Buffy. Hey, Buffy. And they're like playing croquet and bocce ball. Where's Homer? Oh, he's in Catholic heaven. And they're all fighting and drinking, the Italians and the Irish.
Well, one of my, you know, I grew up in pretty conservative Christianity. My family wasn't that way, but went to some churches that were very conservative, went to a Bible concentration camp as a kid. And, you know, one of the frequent sermons was on the day of judgment, they're going to have a movie of your life. Now, hopefully these camps now have updated the technology. It's no longer reel to reel, but they said that before, you know, the day seat of judgment, you know, there's going to be a movie of everything you've done wrong shown. And my first reaction was, I'm okay just as long as mom doesn't see it. You
know? my first thought is like, what's the budget and who plays me?
Yeah, I guess for heaven to be, who do you want to play you in that movie?
Adam Sandler.
Adam Sandler. Very good.
That would be fantastic. Yeah, I would like.
I either go Michael Keaton or John Cusack. I think to play me.
John Cusack could play you. That'd be with a scarf.
Yeah, with the scarf. Anyway,
with a scarf.
So
Christ the King. So here we are. We're back to Christ the King. He's the King.
Well, you know, I really like the juxtaposition of the last Sunday of Ordinary Time before we started talking about the Advent and the Incarnation being a reminder of who the baby in the manger is. I think that's even though that's not, I think liturgically why Christ the King became part of the church calendar. But to me, it's a wonderful reminder, particularly as we go into these passages.
Well, yeah, it doesn't make sense. It's placement though, right? Because it's eschatological. It's the enthronement of Christ.
Yep, absolutely.
And then don't you have after Christ the King? Isn't Trinity Sunday? Or is that after Pentecost?
That's after Pentecost.
Okay, so that makes sense. Then what I'm thinking, doesn't make sense. But Christ the King makes sense in its eschatological.
Right, and again, some of you may not go to churches where those passages are read, and they're not always front and center every liturgical year. But this idea that that the prophetic hope of the Hebrew Scriptures gets tied into the unrealized hope of the Christian community as well. I think it's a wonderful reminder, particularly, during some of these very sentimental approaches to Christmas. I'm up here in Vermont, which is fascinating in and of itself. And I won't get into the local politics, but we got asked to participate we're in the historical part of town. We're part of the, traditional looking New England white steeple, and a statue of the Revolutionary soldiers in front of the church. The town owns that part. They just put a huge Christmas tree, planted it in front of the church, and they asked us to participate. And I said, sure, we'll help out. And they were very excited. And they go, but this is Christmas, so you had to be careful about what religion you talk about. So I, if any of you have any Druid robes, I'm thinking about, coming and bringing a flaming arrow and shooting flaming arrows.
I remember Bill O'Reilly once said, Christianity is not religious. It's a philosophy. And John Stewart said, you know what? I don't think that's quite true. As a Jew, I think I'd get an A in Jesus philosophy class. In the religion class, not so much.
Right. So, but anyway, so we're working that out right now. But I do think this wonderful idea of what's not yet, right? What the that whole dance within our faith about what we believe to be, what has been, but what we're hoping to be. That's part of the reason I really love, doing these sermons and celebrating these things this time of year.
Yeah, it's interesting because this is the already not yet us, right? So the two tendencies in the church with ultimate things or end times or eschatology, as theologians like to say, is that you're either over or under realized eschatology, right? So
Right.
you're too much kingdom now, and you're identifying the kingdoms of this world with the enthroned Christ and his kingdom, or you're under realized in the sense that there's not really any connection between the work and witness of the church and the extension of Christ's ministry and kingship in the world.
Right.
And then, it's interesting too, because right now you have people, it's election, post-election season. Some people, we see both, right? Some people think that this election is over-realized eschatology, right? This next best thing to Christ coming back is the extension of Mar-a-Lago into back across the Potomac. And others are, this is basically, hell in a handbasket, that the Spirit has left the building, and we are so far east of Eden that there is no room for redemption, only resistance. So
it's interesting too.
Resistance on a good day, I guess.
Resistance on a good day. I think the realized eschatology of both the right and left have always led the church, I think, to make it sometimes unholy alliances. That's certainly what why Christ the King was instituted. It also can lead to false hope. I mean, I was talking to someone who reached out after the election, said, "I've lost faith," and I go, "What did you have faith in?" I mean, that was my question. What did you believe in that that let you down? I said, because as a person of faith,
the Dominion voting machines,
right? Well, that could very well be, right? It's funny. No one's talking about that, but the truth of the matter is, I said, regardless of my attitude about the election, nothing that I believe to be true was undermined in what happened in the election. There's some things that happened that I wish I was wrong about that got reconfirmed. But in terms of my core, what I believe in, a election by a semi-politically literate American populace is not the basis of my faith in anything. And I
mean, semi-literate is very generous.
I said semi-political literate. Yes,
politically literate. Yeah, well, that's generous.
That's even more. That might be.
That's even more generous.
That might be more generous. Well, I'm trying to be. I'm trying to be fair. But nonetheless, I think that's Christ the King is a great opportunity for us to regroup. I have found that these last weeks have been a great opportunity for me as a pastor to help both remind my folks who we are and help them get a little more converted into being who we are supposed to be. I just read a great version of you quoted City of God a couple of weeks ago, or an episode or so ago, and a wonderful idea of the two cities. And Rowan Williams, in his book Tokens of Trust, does a beautiful version of this idea that what the kingdom of God is it's our primary membership, and we find ourselves as we find ourselves as citizens, incidental citizens or occasional citizens of other kingdoms, but we can only participate in those other kingdoms in ways that they don't come in conflict with the kingdom of Christ. And I think one of the things that I would encourage all Christians of whatever your political um, persuasion may be to take this opportunity to revisit what the kingdom of Jesus is about.
Yeah,
And
this is where that term for that book from the 80s, Resident Aliens, came about, right? Which really struck a chord among mainline Protestants and later among evangelicals as well. Evangelicals were looking to sort of rebel against some of the Constantinian tendencies in evangelicalism, right? Stanley Hauerwas and William Wilmot wrote this interesting book, the subtitle Resident Aliens was Life in the Christian Colony. And it was really meant as a rebuke to liberal Protestants who had over-identified with being the chaplains to society and sort of, and it was a sort of popularized Constantine critique and a critique of Christendom. And that, but that, comes from, the New Testament mindset of resident alien, the in Philippians, right? You have the politeuma, you're citizens of heaven, you're the commonwealth that you're, and this idea that, resident aliens are people that do have legal citizenship, right? Or do have it in a culture, but they're members of another culture, right? They function, resident aliens kind of function in, with, under, around that culture, but that's not their homeland, right?
Right. And I also
their homeland is another commonwealth.
I mean, and there's a living warning in front of us. By saying that the biggest problem in this country right now is illegal aliens, right? Undocumented aliens or people here aren't legally, and being prepared to spend billions of dollars to correct this problem. Those of you who are biblical people, I think there's a warning there. There's a warning that the coming administration has chosen that to be its moral center. And I think it's, it's funny. I've been reading Jeremiah. I've been preaching to Jeremiah, and over a course of I don't know how many years, Jeremiah just says, okay, if you repent now, the Babylonians will not, you won't be conquered. Well, they don't repent. So a little bit later, okay, you've lost that option. But if you repent now, the Babylonians will not take you into exile. Well, they missed that. Okay, if you repent now, you're going to get conquered, but they're not going to kill you and destroy the city. And of course, they don't turn around. And it's interesting. I think.
Don't you think Trump would say to Jeremiah, okay, that's great, but I like prophets that say we're not going to get conquered.
Well,
okay?
That's exactly what Zedekiah says.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, and Jeremiah at one point says, so where are all those, as the siege is, getting tighter around Jerusalem, Jeremiah says, so where are all the prophets that said it was going to be okay? Where are all those guys? So I think Christ
Where
the King.
have all the prophets gone?
Very good. Thank you for making me remember that annoying song from the.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't great, but it wasn't.
I like that.
I've been listening to Neil Diamond lately. I love that song. Holy Holly.
And by the remember that when I turned you on to,
I love that song. Jesus was a sailor, which he wasn't. He wasn't, but I love that song.
Yeah, when he walked upon the water. Yeah,
it's a great song. That was great. Those are great. By the way, if you haven't listened to us, if you're just coming to the show in the past year or so, forever ago we did a series on pop songs that featured Jesus, and that was what was the title of that song?
Well, that was Suzanne.
Suzanne,
Leonard,
right?
It's
Leonard. We were talking about the Neil Diamond version because he did a cover, right?
He did a cover on
which I loved.
Yeah, it's a great version. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, Leonard Cohen could be like it's funny, the spirituality of Leonard Cohen. He's a guy that reads the Bible, but just mix and matches the stories, right? So Jesus is a sailor, or Hallelujah. He combines the David and the Samson story.
David and Samson, right?
But he's in it. It still works, right? It's there in the older of the Testaments. He gets that. But no, I think
I feel like Trump. It's like imagine Trump reading the Hebrew Bible. Just it's interesting, kind of Jewish. I could connect with it, kind of Jewish.
All right, very good. So, at any rate, I hope that maybe there's a little extra a poignancy and attentiveness this Christ the King.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting, right? Because I mean it is good news, the kingship of Christ.
Oh
right?
yeah,
And that I mean, for the world, that hopefully the world has to tell us that, as King said, that there's an arc to the universe and it bends toward justice, but a cruciform justice, right? A justice where God becomes a fellow sufferer, and that, I mean, that's probably the thing that is the best news of the kingship, right? It's the King that rules from the cross, the King that is rules in a counterintuitive way, and so we can take comfort that the King. As what did Dorothy Sayers say? You can say a lot about God, but you can't say he has not had the courage to take a dose of his own medicine.
Yeah, I think that's great. It's interesting. And Rowan Williams says there are three humans mentioned in the creed: Jesus, Mary, and Pontius Pilate. Mary says yes to Jesus. Pontius Pilate says no. And so the kingship of Christ gives us an opportunity to say yes, to follow that way.
Amen to that. Thanks, everybody. Catch you next time.
Thanks for this. Bye.